Welcome to this podcast from the Human Capital Institute's Referral Programs 2.0, How Social Networking Maximizes Referrals. This webcast was brought to you by Select Minds. Jeannie C. Meister, author and founding partner of Future Workplace, teaches us how to take full advantage of referral programs for recruiting new business and staying connected with current and former employees. Listen in to learn how to take your referral programs to the next level.
About all the changes that are happening in the workplace, and then we're going to do a deep dive on how this is impacting the referral systems as we know it. So there's three main trends that we covered in the book, and after we go through these, we're going to take a deep dive into recruiting. So the first one is globalization. By 2020, there's going to be a global access to markets and talent that will really help reshape business. By the year 2020, 5 generations will be working side by side in organizations, and this is a big change from what we hear about a lot in the literature. Up until now, it's really been 4 generations, and the reason we are predicting 5 is how many people have said that they will remain in the workplace. A study was done by the Pew Research Foundation among working professionals between 50 and 64, and they called them the threshold generation because they're on the threshold of retiring. And the study was done right after the economic collapse of about a couple years ago, and they basically about 33% said they have delayed retirement because of that. So we have people living longer, working longer, and this has a lot of implications on how many generations there will be working side by side and what companies need to do differently to recruit and develop and communicate with each generation. And then finally, social media, and part of that is some of the corporate social networks that are being designed for both internal employees as well as alumni of companies. So the first trend, interesting, and this comes out of Financial Times, and it's probably no surprise to all of you, companies are growing their businesses outside of the United States, and specifically a lot of the growth is in the BRIC countries, Brazil, Russia, India, and China. And this is a chart taken from the book, from the Financial Times Global 500, which you can see how much of a decline there's been between the years of 2005 and 2008 in the United States, and where that growth is happening, and specifically it is the BRIC countries. So the future workplace, the demographics, we are looking at a multi-generational workforce. And today, this is based on the U.S. Census data, we have about as many baby boomers as we have millennials, slightly fewer millennials. And just to give you so you can sort of see where you fit in here, people always like to know what generation. In case you don't know the years, the traditionalists are born before 1946. The boomers are between 1946 and 1964. Gen Xers 1965 and 1976, and millennials 77 to 97. And then up here, Gen 2020, we basically created, identified and named this generation as anyone born after the year 1997. So that is in the workplace. So obviously we didn't interview those people. They weren't in the workplace, but in the year 2020, they will be just entering the workplace. And what the stunning thing is that we have millennials that will be 50% of the workplace in 10 years from now. And I think if we think we've seen a lot of changes now, we'll see even more in the next 10 years. So the third trend is the increasing usage of the social web. And what we have here is we did our own research, and we leveraged research that was done by others. And this one happened to be taken from the American Association for Training and Development. and they did a survey of 700 heads of learning globally in 2008 and asked them about their usage of Web 2.0 in the learning function, and they found about 9% were using Web 2.0 but look at how much that percentage goes up to almost 90% by 2011. And we hear about it. We've included about 5 or 6 companies in the book of all those that are using Web 2.0. And on the bottom is really the classification of what we consider the different tools are to using Web 2.0, and the whole social networking tool is under there in terms of connecting with current and former employees. And we think the real the importance here is that companies as well as individuals like Kevin Smith are leveraging online social and professional networks to connect, to communicate, engage, and really identify future employers. And this is a practice called social recruiting. And if you're in the recruiting function, you've heard the terms. This is our definition for it. And as we look at how recruiting is being redefined, we look at out there and then how social recruiting is redefining those challenges. Traditionally, organizations would go to a lot of recruiting fairs or on-campus interviews. And what's happening now is there's a lot more companies that have created Facebook fan pages. One of the companies in the book that we've identified was Ernst & Young. I don't know if anyone is on the webinar from Ernst & Young. They were actually one of the first professional service firms to create a fan presence on Facebook. They now have about 40,000 fans. So these are really the pillars of this alumni network. And what we're talking about is companies who start not only doing this for current employees, but also for former employees. And this is they're called alumni referral programs. And traditionally, companies have said that, in the era when it was cradle to grave employment, which we know it isn't any longer, they didn't have to worry about this. But now what we're seeing is yesterday's employees are now a referral for tomorrow's new hires. So what can you do to get ready now? 3 things to think about is how does your recruiting function fit into this new model of social recruiting? What are you doing today to move the needle from more of a traditional recruiting function to utilizing some new ways to attract and source talent? And then finally, are you extending this to important stakeholders, which are alumni? And can you make your business case to do that? And then what would you expect would be some of the results in doing it? So to continue the dialogue with me, there's my email, Jean@futureworkplace.com.